Good morning and a warm welcome to the dialogue this morning. Welcome to the program every Saturday. We go down to look at the big stories of the week and the panel dissects those national issues. We have a lot on our agenda today, and the panel will be looking at quite a handful that happened within this week. My name is Simapolo, and it's quite an eventful week. We had the NLM Liberation Day that falls every 26th of January every year, and even across the borders there are other events that possibly we can look at. That incident when Rwanda shot at a DRC fighter jet, allegedly, which was allegedly violating its airspace, and the DRC denied the allegation, calling it an act of war. That actually reaffirms the strained relations between the two neighboring countries, which we have been talking about for a while. And also across the border in Kenya, the Azimio leader Raila Odinga held a mammoth rally in Nairobi, and he again denounced the leadership and the presidency of Dr. William Ruto. And he also talked about the whistleblowers' disclosures. And the Azimio leaders claim that when they took the petition to the Supreme Court, they had not enough evidence, and now they have evidence that Raila got 8.1 million votes, while Ruto got 5.9 million votes, a difference of 2 million votes. And it tells possibly whether Raila Odinga is reinventing himself to prepare for another election battle. Well, when we come back to Uganda, we can also look at this historic event when President Yoweri Museveni launched an oil rig at Kingfisher oil fields, and that is in western Uganda. I call it a historic event because it concretizes the prospects of producing our first oil in 2025. And of course, we can also look at the censure motion in Parliament. Parliament this week successfully censured the State Minister for Lands, Honorable Persis Muganza. 348 MPs, a majority of 97%, voted in favor of the censure motion, and also 5 MPs voted against, 3 abstained. Well, we wait for now the President, who is the appointing authority, to make the next move. And well, we'll be asking questions whether actually this its impact, the impact of this censure to the democracy, the growth of democracy and development in this country. And finally, the reports from the international airport, which made rounds in the media for now 2 weeks. I gather that the IGG has picked interest in the matter, but also the authorities, the managers of the airport, have taken drastic steps, possibly to reverse the bad situation. Good enough, we have the spokesperson for the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority in the studios. We'll be looking also into that matter. But let me introduce the panel. Dr. Gerard Werihe-Wanzara, a man from Namisu Indwa. He is the head of research and civic engagement at Africa Leadership Institute, this NGO that does oversight on Parliament and other government bodies. Welcome to the show, Dr. Gerard Werihe-Wanzara.
Thank you very much, Apple. Good morning, viewers and my fellow panelists. It's always good to be here, and my people in Buburo County East, I greet you. I thank you for always being loyal to this program.
Wow, that's important. Richard Baguma, a communication specialist and an advocate for proper nutrition. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Like always, I am saying the grace of God is abundant. We can be here yet another day, and despite all our transgressions, God is very merciful.
Wow.
And we thank you, the viewers, for keeping with us week after week. Thank you so much.
Good. And it's a pleasure to introduce Vianney Mpungu Luja, and Vianney is the spokesperson for Uganda Civil Aviation Authority. Welcome to the program this morning.
Thank you very much, and a very good morning to you viewers. It's a great pleasure and honor for me to be here.
Wow, that's something great. Gentlemen, briefly, I don't know, Jared, if you can make a comment on these big stories. Our focus today, the main stories will be 1, the Liberation Day; 2, the saga at the Entebbe International Airport; 3, the Namuganza censure. But I talked about what happened in Congo, what happened in Kenya. I don't know if we can make a comment on those two.
Yeah, on Congo, I will not speak so much. We have discussed this topic here with the Baguma and you, I think about 4 times since February last year. And we predicted that we are not going to find a solution very soon because the underlying causes are not being solved. Whereas Rwanda is scared of the other group in DRC.
FDLR.
Exactly. The focus seems to be on the M23 to disarm. And yet the M23 seems to be a proxy for containing the other groups that threaten the existence of Rwanda. And when the troops of Kenya went there, we told you that they were around the airport in Goma, and they don't have capacity to conduct peace enforcement. If it is peacekeeping, it means there must be already peace. But there's no peace to keep.
You're talking about the East African Standby Force?
Yes, they do not have the capacity to enforce. If they had, how comes this very week we are hearing of M23 gaining more ground, other territories in North Kivu, and cutting off actually the supply routes to the city of Goma. So it means that we are still yet to see more, and it's likely to escalate.
Okay.
I don't know why we cannot look at the cost of this conflict. We have 3, maybe Congo has 3 MiGs, that is Sukhoi. So and then you are risking them in the airspace of Rwanda, and then Rwanda hits 1. The next day you are only left with the 2. You will go and borrow money. You go to Putin and buy more, as Putin makes more money to finance his war the other side. So I think all parties need to be very serious about this conflict.
But this is not the first time Rwanda is possibly claiming its airspace is being violated by the fighter jets from DRC.
And I think that's why he sent a message, because there have been images of that same color of the Sukhoi Su jet fighter entering Rwanda. And then Rwanda warning that if you do it again, we shall shoot you. And it has happened.
Okay.
One thing I know about President Kagame is that he rarely jokes when it comes to some of these things.
Okay.
And Kenya, you are right when you talk of reinventing. It is going to be very hard for us or the public to trust like really this whistleblower results are real correct. But of course Raila and team have to find a way to reinvent and keep relevant as they look to the next election. I don't see Ruto going down in this term. And I see them, Ruto again, facing a very old man in the next election.
Okay, Richard.
No, the Raila rally for me was Raila
in Nairobi. Is it Kamukunji
Raila and Ruto are cutting deals.
Oh.
Yes, we are going to see things happening. And Raila has to support Ruto's moves to build bridges with him and do things together. And he has to show that he's still relevant. So there is a political gain, because there will be extreme forces on Ruto's side challenging the building the building of bridges. They are going to build bridges. So they have already. The talks have been undergoing.
He could be negotiating or setting ground.
They are negotiating,
but
also not they are negotiating, but also that to show that you see, I'm still powerful, I'm still relevant, so that even the other voices, which may be on the extreme side, saying no, we shouldn't. The argument will be, look, the guy still has strong support. So that is Kenyan style. We need to adopt it. Why not? The other thing for you see, for any of the planes to land on the airport in Goma, I don't know if people know where the airport is. It's probably a few hundred meters. From the Rwanda
border.
Yes. Jeez. So for you see, when we are landing in Entebbe, all of you go round and come in from a certain direction. It's the same with Goma. You have to go a bit into Rwandan territory to lock properly on the runway and come. So there's nothing. The escalation is not on a bit or a few meters into the airspace. Please, excuse me. That is happening all the time. The escalation is because of the conditions, the objective conditions on the ground.
Authorities are right to say it is an act of war shooting.
Yes. This has been happening. But we have seen a progression. That's why he was saying, we have talked about this in the previous, I don't know how many programs. We have seen a progression. But in my view, like we were in Congo, us and the Rwandese, we had to fight two bloody wars for us to accept that there is a certain pain to each one of us. So we should approach this differently. The Rwandese and the Congolese will fight.
Okay.
They will all agree that there is a certain cost.
And then they sit on the table, comfortably on the table.
Yes.
And negotiate.
Yes. There are more than how many militias? More than 120 militias
groups
in the Congo. So, I mean, now it's M23, the next it will be FDR, and the next it will be another one. But until we have a cost that is embarrassing to all of us, there will not be, we should have this.
Have you felt the presence of the East African Standby Force? It was deployed in December, I think.
How many are they? 200 soldiers? Or something like that. The deployment of the East African Standby Force was not about the military might. It's about the political statement.
But they talked about dislocating and actually disarming.
I don't give a shit. So I don't give too much attention to what they are talking about. It's the usual propaganda. It was a political statement. It's not about military might. No.
Vianney, make a comment on possibly those two big stories.
I think the experts have really enumerated these things. I would prefer to delve into the issues that I'm more familiar with. Yes.
This man is employed to speak in a certain way.
Okay. So let's go straight to his area of jurisdiction. Yes. The fracas and the saga around the Entebbe International Airport. And my concern is now what its impact now will be after all people possibly who have been planning to come through that airport and they hear about what is happening and all of that. What are you doing now, or what have you now done to possibly reverse this bad situation?
Thank you very much, Apollo. First of all, I would like to...
Or really, are you concerned as I am?
Extremely concerned, and we have not started today. We have been concerned about these issues. These complaints have been there before. We have previously handled those that have come to our attention very well, and we have taken action, including punishment of the culprits where we have got information. Again, we appreciate the members of the public that came out to provide us with more information. Just to show you that action has been taken before, just the period from 2020 to date, based on the information that we had received, we had punished 26 members of staff from different agencies operating at the airport, not just from UCAA, but from immigration, the handling agents, NAS and DAS, from the port health team that checks COVID and others. We have a labor desk there as well, customs, airline staff themselves, cleaning companies, and all the others that operate at the airport. So a total of 26 action had been taken in terms of dismissals, termination of contracts, and removal of airport pass from those that were found culpable. And when the airport pass is removed, it means that you cannot work at Entebbe International Airport anymore, or any other airport in Uganda for that matter. So that shows the action taken before. But now when this wave came in the last 2 weeks, like you have rightly stated, again, based on some of the legitimate information that we saw, there were some videos that were incriminating some staff. Based on those, 4 members of staff from different agencies, including UCAA, Turkish Airlines, and one from another airline, were arrested, interrogated, and the disciplinary processes are ongoing in line with the employment regulations. But while we have received valuable feedback from members of the public, unfortunately, there are some videos that are not legitimate. You may have seen a young man putting on a white shirt with what similar to that of immigration. The uniform, yeah, pips. Looks like as if he's an airport staff, and he's seated talking. It's a comedy thing, talking to a passenger very rudely. And after that, he orders the passenger to go to the next officer, picks up a phone, and is seen as if telling the other person, charge him $300. So most of the people seeing such a video actually, unfortunately, think it is a legitimate video.
So
and
you're saying, though some viral videos
yes,
are really valid
legitimate,
and authentic, legitimate,
yes,
there are other
many
concocted,
apparently many, if not the majority, have been illegitimate. Either someone is comic, others are giving. So that unfortunately has not helped the situation in relation to what you're talking about in terms of the image of the country outside there, but also in Uganda. There are people who have interacted with, who have watched that video that I'm referring to, who actually think it is something that happens at Entebbe International Airport, which is not the case. But while that is said, we have a lot of staff at Entebbe who are doing a good job. Okay. But the bad apples are definitely there. And unfortunately, these few bad apples have given us a very bad name. And that's why you see, now people may think that everyone behaves that way, which is not the case. But as the management of UCAA, those who oversee the airport, we condemn the bad acts. We do not condone these acts in any way whatsoever. And that is why we are taking stern action wherever we get concrete information. The other challenge that we have experienced, sometimes people go through a bad experience and not cite it there and then, but then talk about it long after it has happened and without going into specifics, and they talk generally, and I've seen a lot of those videos. That's such that even when you look at it, it cannot help you to get to the bottom of the matter. And that is why we are re-emphasizing the feedback channels that we have in place. We have an email, aviation@caa.co.ug. We have a WhatsApp line and others, numbers that we've displayed and contacts. So we encourage and urge the public that if you experience any bad service while traveling through Entebbe International Airport, it is more important that you actually communicate to us with detail of what happened and when. We always investigate these things. There are CCTV cameras we can follow and get to the bottom of it so that justice is rendered. But
Mr. Rujal, before you blame people for possibly taking long to come out and express themselves on these bad incidents, doesn't this really show that you have weak systems at the airport? You would have actually detected these acts of misconduct even long before these things came up.
First of all, I am actually not blaming the public for not telling us in time. I am only urging that it will help all of us if you actually give us the information, that when you go through it, instead of keeping quiet, you send the information to us so that we can follow it up properly and address the issues. And many, by the way, have been addressed. Some of those people have been helped when they tell us in time. For instance, there are these other numbers of even senior officials that we have added to those that were there. And we are saying that, assuming you are at the airport and you have everything that is required, and someone is trying to take advantage by asking for ABC, call on these for assistance while you're still there, other than waiting, you miss your flight, and then you talk about it later. So we are displaying these on flight information display systems at the airport every now and then, so that action is taken there and then. But the other reason why we are saying this, because you said why, apparently some of this does not even take place at the airport. Some of the malpractices are coordinated way out of the airport. You may have seen a video of one staff who was probably negotiating with a passenger for something. That video was actually not taken at the airport. When you look at it critically, it is somewhere in Chitoro. So a number of these are negotiated away from the airport. Then the victims come, unfortunately, when they have already even paid that money. So in such a situation, you may not know unless someone provides you with that specific information, and those who have provided it has helped. But while that is said, we have gone ahead to take serious action.
Okay.
Drastic action has been taken and measures have been put in place. One of those, we have agreed to harmonize operations. The current process now, there are so many checks. We had the labor desk that checks whether you have a clearance letter from the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. We had another yellow fever desk. Then we had the port health team that checks whether you have fully vaccinated, or if not, you have COVID-19 PCR before you actually enter the check-in area. Now, as part of the harmonization, we are saying some of these roles can actually be performed by, for instance, handling agents at the document verification point. Others, for instance, the checking of the labor clearance letter can be performed by immigration. So we are harmonizing and saying let some of these roles be performed by fewer people and more efficiently. So that will remove some of these many desks, because the more you have so many checks, it is another loophole, because you're exposed to so many different people. So we are now going to have a situation where a passenger goes through fewer people and desks, and that is going to help. Two, we have agreed that all agencies operating at the airport should have name tags clearly embroidered on their uniforms, especially those staff that interface directly with passengers, but all general, as long as you're uniformed and operating at Entebbe International Airport. That is taking immediate effect. We gave them 1 week, and it is already being implemented. Many of them now have tags. Two, we have also agreed that mobile phones are prohibited. This is a directive that we had issued earlier on in 2021, but it never received buy-in from the leadership of the different agencies. We are now enforcing it, and it's already being implemented, that as long as you're interfacing directly with passengers, you shouldn't have a private mobile phone on you. It is helping to take away the distraction, but also this coordination of things that are done outside the airport to be minimized. Another very important step we have taken. Previously, after a passenger has gone through the entire departure check-in process and has gone past immigration, is waiting in the boarding area. For some reason or another, security or otherwise, a few passengers have been called back, which in the industry language we call offloading. Yet this passenger has already gone past immigration. We're saying we're putting a stop to that.
Okay. There
is no more offloading or calling back a passenger who has gone past immigration. If for any reason whatsoever that must happen, then it must be with authorization from Uganda CAA, specifically from the Director Airports and Aviation Security, or at least General Manager of Entebbe International Airport. Wow. And that too is in effect, and it's going to do wonders. It's going to help us. Already we are seeing a difference in this short time that we are implementing these measures.
Thank you so much. And Richard, you last week said you are a victim of what has been happening at the airport. Are you now contented that the measures that have been put in place will actually do anything to curb those acts of indiscipline and misconduct?
You see, Apple, sometimes we attempt to divorce some institutions from the general decadence of the society, the impunity. I keep talking about impunity. Somebody was telling me on another TV station yesterday that I'm going to drive myself hoarse talking about impunity. But you see, what do I do? Impunity is on everything. You see, we were discussing with somebody, my colleague George Namwangus. We were coming, I think, out of Congo, DRC. And one of the immigration officers said that the passport was not heavy enough because he had put in a $20 bill and the guy wanted the $50 bill. But they were doing it in open. It was not hidden. And I was sharing my previous experience a couple of years ago in Nigeria, when I had not put a dollar bill because I didn't know. And the guy told me, no, there is a missing page. Open. So you see, decadence does not happen in one day. So the challenge we have, the things I was talking about, and why it was not the first time I have shared my experience at the airport, because I very regularly use the airport. Is the impunity that we have created in our 30-something years of being here, that somebody keeps right on the road. I can tell you, just at the lights in Ntinda, on a one evening, I challenged somebody. He says, let's stand in front of the supermarket. There were 10 incidents. Somebody comes, the line is here, they pass right. And there is a bridge in the middle.
When we actually have to keep left.
It's just, so are all those VIPs, really? Yeah. So the border.
So what has been happening and what is happening at Interport
is part of the context of the impunity and decadence that we are undergoing. And we've been rotting,
But we have to find means of going about it.
I'm not talking about not finding means. I am talking about the continued sliding that comes from even very, very, very high. Yes. And that's so to try and divorce the airport from the Ugandan, the roads, the security. You see, the other day, during Christmas, somebody took a bulldozer in Ntinda, broke somebody's house. There was a car in the garage, destroyed it. There was a TV in the sitting room. There were photos. Why do you destroy the car? Okay, you have a contestation over a piece of land. Why do you destroy somebody's car? That's part of the land.
Are you suggesting?
And the police, and that is the same person who was torturing the 99-year-old woman. In the same person in Namgongo.
But Richard, are you suggesting that all these drastic measures that have been taken and others are being undertaken are all in vain because of impunity?
No, not at all. But I am putting Ruja on notice that the people who have power, and therefore who have power over the airport, because Ruja will receive a call. I can promise. Ruja, there is an incident. There was a girl who CAA attempted to punish, and there were calls from high above.
Oh.
Because you see, I also operate in some of these spaces. So, I know. So, yes, I am very happy that these... But the impunity that the Rujas face comes from way above their station.
Oh, yeah.
So, this thing from above creates challenges.
Okay.
People come and their impunity is that they generally are untouchable. And you see, people have been saying that the videos are ethnic. But which region do I come from? Which ethnicity do I come from? Even when you narrow it down to a district, and even in that district you narrow, that's the group I come from. That's the group I encounter.
Okay.
Yes. At the airport the last time, I told you, I walked to one of the young men. He was shouting at a couple. It's an Ethiopian couple. They don't know, they don't speak English. The young man came, this is at 1:30 a.m. There are no forms for us to fill to say our luggage is missing, and it was about 70 of us. I was traveling with the Commissioner for Transport, Kato Shabe. I was traveling with Honorable Kasoro, isn't he the Vice Chair for Infrastructure? I was with them in the same delegation. There were no forms. And you see, this old couple who can't speak English, this young man said that they had woken him up. But if you are working at the night duty, and you have gone to sleep, there is a challenge, and you come, and the guy said he had woken, he was shouting. So I just came to him.
Okay.
I said, excuse me, can't you at least respect age? At least.
Okay. Richard, my concern was the far-reaching effects of what is happening at the airport now. And I don't know if you share that concern.
It's not different from what is happening on the roads. That's what I'm saying. It's not happening. It's not different from what is happening in prostitution at the police stations. It's not different. I congratulate the CAA for attempting to do these things they are saying they are going to do. I congratulate them. I will be at the airport in less than 10 days. I'm traveling again. I will be sharing my experiences here. Hey, I use it all the time.
Dr. Gerard, Entebbe International Airport is the gateway to this country. Actually the only gateway to this country. And that is my concern when travelers now all over hear about what is happening at this only international airport and what possibly could be the impact and consequence attached to this.
Apple, he studied communication. I studied the finances at bachelor's level. Now in finance, we have what we call the marginal utility of money. That when you lose a certain fraction of your income, the effect is more stronger than if they increased your pay with the same value of the money you have lost. Okay? Now, in communication, people always ask, why do you only focus on negative news? Why don't bring out the positive news? Negative news spreads faster than positive news. It's just natural.
Good news actually is no news in communication.
Exactly. So, if we have the negative news, the impact is much more stronger than that positive that you are doing.
About that cliche bond of a man biting a dog and a dog biting a man.
Absolutely. So Luja has talked about the issues, how to maybe to create some convenience for travelers, and I commend them for the new measures. However, there are some other areas that I have not heard them talk about. For instance, I read a story last week, and which civil aviation did not deny, that a high-level criminal paid $10,000 and used the Entebbe airport through to Brazil.
Yeah.
And this was a highly wanted criminal who only paid $10,000 and transited through
without proper documents.
Without proper documents. What does it show you? And then a few years back, Entebbe was listed internationally as one of those transit areas where the drug barons move from Brazil through Guinea-Bissau, and then they end up here and then to the Far East. So I don't know whether security, because I see a lot of security in
it's a matter of security,
from State House, a lot. So I don't know whether we are also addressing some of these issues that are actually aimed at, we are supposed to fight them globally, but some people take advantage and use our facilities. At a personal level, it's not different from Richard. I suffered on a yellow fever desk. I told you this. I was among the last people to check in Qatar Airways, and then an official told me that my yellow fever card seemed not on 30. I received this card in 2011 from KCC after being injected. I told the person, I cannot be injected again. Like he said, actually you should ban those phones when they're on duty, because I had to decide between giving a bribe of a few dollars and then they let me go, or I fight and then I miss my flight. So if I was to miss, I would have paid more money than the yellow fever card. So a phone call was made. Within a short time, a lady appeared on a smart pink suit. Said, you go and see that lady. She had cards, a heap of them. Victoria, is it Victoria Clinic? I don't know where the hell it is, that side in Entebbe.
There are many issues with that Port Health Department.
Exactly. So I discovered there's someone at the airport who moves with a heap of those things and for extortion. So if he says they need to minimize the number of desks people go to, I really support it. And of course, the issue of identification is very important. Very important. Why do you serve us when we don't know you? We need to know your name.
Let me go back to Luja. as we conclude this matter, are you really convinced that the measures that have been put in place will make impact and produce reasonable feedback, and are you really convinced?
Yes, we are. We are confident that the measures in place are going to help a great deal. If I may also point to what my brother mentioned, that unfortunate experience with the handler who had no forms and was waking up at 1:30 a.m. One of the other measures that we are now re-emphasizing, first of all, these different agencies operating at the airport, we expect them to train their staff in all aspects, including customer care. But there's been a big gap in that area. And because we noticed that gap, we have over the years been chipping in with the general training. But the frequency, we are now saying we are going to enhance that frequency. We are chipping in as UCAA to train all the agencies operating at the airport, because when they are there, whatever they are doing is giving the bad name first to UCAA, then to the airport generally and the country. So some of them are not even known by the public when they do this, like that particular one. So we are enhancing the frequency of customer care training for this, and it will help. Then briefly about what Dr. hinted on in relation to the Brazil story. Unfortunately, well, that particular story was slightly distorted the way it was reported. The $10,000 that was reported as a bribe actually was not. The issue there was the staff of the handling agent that handled that particular person. There are things that they ought to have done, checks and balances, that they did not do properly in execution of their duties. And in the process, someone went through with that criminal record and all that kind of thing. So because of that, normally when an airline takes a passenger to a destination and the passenger has issues, that's why airlines are obliged to do checks, and they are assisted by handling agents. So the person is brought back, for instance, either airline is fined or is asked to meet the costs, and this is what happened. So that was a fine actually on the airline, and the airline passed on the fine to the handling agent who handled. So the amount being talked to was actually a fine for the staff not having performed their duty the way they ought to have performed it, but it was misreported as a bribe. Then the other thing, if time allows, I wanted to very briefly take through the process that a passenger, not process, but requirements, because this is one of the loopholes.
Okay.
The basic requirements for a passenger.
Do it in 3 minutes.
Yes, I'm going to summarize it very quickly. One, obviously, you need a passport. Check your destination, whether it requires a visa. Then you add a visa. And, of course, the air ticket, return ticket. On top of that, the current regime protocol requires that you are fully vaccinated. And if you're not fully vaccinated with all the doses, at least undertake a COVID-19 test within 72 hours from time of sample collection to time of boarding aircraft leaving Uganda. After that, we expect that a passenger should at least be at the airport about 3 hours prior to their departure time, because most international airlines check-in counters close an hour to their flight's departure time. Now, when it comes to migrant workers, those going for work in the Middle East and other places, there are additional requirements which I alluded to earlier, like a clearance letter from Ministry of Gender. But also, it is advised that they go through registered labor companies, registered by the Ministry of Gender. So for those, there is that additional requirement. The other thing, you check the destination. Some destinations require yellow fever, countries like Tanzania, South Africa, China, and others. So it's also important that on top of what I have listed, you ask the airline or be in touch with the airline for the specific destination requirements. Because some destinations have specific requirements. You may find a destination requiring you to even have a hotel booking, among others. But on top of that, for the example he gave about the yellow fever, those are some of the bad apples that are doing what is wrong. But there are also those who are doing their work legitimately and asking pertinent questions. So beside those basics that I've listed, we have a vice, human trafficking, and it has affected us quite a lot. And there are tricks that traffickers employ.
Before you do that,
yes,
are you saying if a traveler is well prepared with all those requirements,
Yes.
it's not easy to fall prey to those acts of extortion
Exactly.
and others.
Exactly, because if you look at most of the people who have fallen victim to these bad apples, are especially maybe first-time travelers,
Oh.
someone not very familiar with the airport, and these migrant
Baguma
workers.
is a frequent traveler.
Yes, he's a frequent traveler. So once in a while, of course, there are those who try to dupe even frequent travelers. Those are also there. But when you look at the majority of cases, even the ones you are seeing on TikTok giving testimonies, are really first-time travelers, and these people take advantage. And but once you have all the requirements with you, you will even be more confident before these people. So it is important for those
talk
basics.
about that issue of
Human trafficking. Yes, now that issue of human trafficking, because besides these basic requirements, the staff now, either of immigration or handler, there are times when they have a few more questions that they may ask a passenger. Let me give an example. Traffickers have employed tactics. They give 2 tickets. Instead of giving the trafficked victim a return ticket, they give a one-way ticket to your destination. Then they also give you another one-way ticket bringing you back. Yes. So the passenger comes with the 2 tickets. And already that is a red flag. So our people will ask questions, and sometimes such a person may not travel, may be stopped from traveling. But now if it's not explained to them properly, even these go and complain.
So it should be a return ticket.
It should be a return ticket. Now when you have these 2 tickets, one way going and another one way returning, those are the tricks traffickers are using. The moment you use this one way to the destination, as soon as you reach, they cancel the other ticket bringing you back. And all the cases of human trafficking we have registered have that history. Police has it. So they are now looking out for that as a red flag. 2, we have cases where a human trafficker is in a country and sends invitation letters to 20 different Ugandans from Mbarara, Kamuli, and others, Mbali. So you wonder, one person inviting 20 different people who don't know each other. So that also is observed, and it's a red flag. And once the officials observe that, they ask more questions, and they may end up stopping this person from going. But to protect, for their own good, for protection of this Ugandan from being trafficked. You saw cases of girls in Dubai last year who were stranded and repatriated. There were others in Oman and others who went for work and being mistreated. Most of these are going through these kind of situations.
All right. Thank you so much. And Richard, we can now, as we wind up, I don't know if you noticed that there is something unique about this whole saga. The vigilance of the population on this particular issue, and the coordination on social media, and it actually somehow you can appreciate that it has produced results.
Yeah, but you see,
talk about that.
Yeah, the main reason is air travel.
Oh.
Is elitist in nature.
Oh.
Is for the elite. So the elite will complain and shout much louder.
Oh, yeah. And
because they have platforms, they have the means. That is why you see, like the land grabbing pandemic is not as
not
widely
given as due attention as
it is doing much more destruction, a lot more than the cases at the airport. How many people travel through Entebbe Airport?
2022 we had 1.7 million.
Yeah, 1.7 million in the whole year.
In the whole year.
Yeah. So how many are those daily? So you see, but so that is where you find that because it's elite in nature, the voice, the complaints, the ones are out and loud and seem like, and that's why I was comparing for you that I have been at airports where you have to have dollars and openly in the passport, otherwise the guy tells you to stand on the side and the other one passes. And these are countries with the president and the police. So my major concern was that they didn't start and go there. They slid like we were sliding. That's why I said, yes, I commend these guys for the steps they are taking. My worry is our conduct for us who wield the levers of power.
Yes.
Because we have been showing that whoever is taking a step to do the right is the one we go after.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my worry.
Gerald, I wish you people, the elite, would actually raise your voices on other matters, all other matters, not only this one.
I really agree because like right now everyone has a mobile phone almost, with a smartphone. our army of the young people, the population of Uganda, almost every youth has this. If we would shout on issues of corruption anywhere, on issues of Bukwa, we were talking in the studio about how RDC in Pimbaza Achaka is suffering with fumes in Bukwa.
They burnt the cow, the RDC has run away. Me, I'm not going to stay here. The representative of the president has run away from Bukwa district. This is serious.
So if we can amplify our voices,
yes.
then we can be able to solve some of this,
Somehow
to
it
draw
shows
the attention. And then
it somehow shows that the voice of the people actually can make things happen. If people rise up.
If people are united, anything can happen. If people are united and they know the cause that they are fighting for, things can change.
All right, in just 2 minutes, Mr. Rija, speak to the people and give them assurance that possibly this honorary gateway that we have, the business at this gateway will possibly change for the better.
Thank you very much. I would like to assure Ugandans and all the users of the facilities at Entebbe International Airport that the management of this facility is committed to implementing measures aimed at a better customer experience. We thank you for the feedback that you have given us. We have used that feedback to help us improve, and we continue to call on your support in dealing with the culprits. And we also appeal, of course, the things that have gone on have had a negative impact on even tourists that are planning to come into the country. So going forward, we request that we closely work together. Some of the things do not have to be shared massively on social media, but they can be shared with us so that we together take that action that is supposed to make Entebbe a better place for all of us.
Thank you so much, Vianney Luja, and let's hope for the better in business at Entebbe International Airport. Richard, I don't know if you still think anything.
For me, I'm looking forward to having Kabare also working as another international airport. I have been asked severally when I'm traveling from out of Uganda, what is your airport of preference when you are going to travel to Uganda? I say, no, there's no preference. I must.
But like I said, it's not about only Entebbe International Airport. Even on land borders.
Oh yeah, you
I used the
Busia
border. It is worse.
And you had your experience. You are extorted.
Worse.
And that's what I'm talking about. How can you tell me that all this is happening there? And you wait for social media to intervene. It is because the people who are doing it know that they are protected. You have the above will intervene, and that impunity for me is what is really the keg for explosion for this country.
Jared, what is your expectation as we conclude on this matter?
I expect things to improve a bit. But I'm only worried about sustainability because we have a history here that when there is fire, you know, we all rise up and talk. Then after a short time, we all forget and we give up. So I don't know whether it will be sustainable, but I will trust what they are doing as we see as time moves on.
Well, I'm also concerned about how the matter has been run along ethnic lines and all that, but just hope that also can be sorted out.
I think the issue of ethnic lines were to do with the number of people are assumed to come from one region of the country who are employed there and then who are involved among the people suspended. It creates another topic for another day, but it's also about recruitment. We don't know how majority of staff are recruited in Civil Aviation Authority.
But as you see, Doctor,
yes,
the airport is a multiple agency working place.
Yes,
you see, when people think that it's only Civil Aviation Authority,
there is URL, there is immigration, there are so many agencies.
All the security agencies, all of them
are there,
congregate there.
But then that tells you how possibly these agencies have issues with recruitment, possibly.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's like you were saying, it's a topic that
for another. Well, viewers, The good thing is that authorities have taken interest into the matter. The Uganda Civil Aviation Authority has rolled out new procedures and new measures. The IGG, Honorable Betty Turuomwe Kamia, has also picked interest in the matter. Actually, she said the investigations have kicked off, and we can only hope that things will change, and that gateway, which gives the impression of what we are and what sort of country we are, will change. And in the studios, we have Richard Baguma, a communication specialist and advocate for proper nutrition, and we have Dr. Gerard Wanzala, a man from Namisindwa, and he is the head of research and civic engagement at Africa Leadership Institute, an NGO that does oversight on parliament and other government bodies. Welcome once again. We have to look at what is happening in parliament, the Namuganza censure. But before we do that, let's look at the 37 years of NRM as we celebrated this week the National Liberation Day. The national events, celebrations were held in Kakumiro district, and His Excellency the President, Yoweri Museveni, was the guest of honor. I will quickly bring in Richard, and talking about the 37th Liberation Day. And the question I want to ask straight away: has the liberation in Uganda stood the test of time?
For me, I think the important thing is to agree on the concept of liberation. See, my first interaction with the concept of liberation involved a date which was 11th April, I think.
11th?
Yeah, I think 11th April used to be our Liberation Day.
Oh.
Yeah, that was my first
Before
interaction.
this government?
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think when the Tanzanians, including the current leader of our country, and some of the players, when they came, they told us they had liberated us.
That is 1979?
Yes. So we commemorated the Liberation Day. I remember we would go from Montare School. A certain gentleman would come and we sing the Congress of the People at the Nyachara, and we all drive to Shea. Wherever it was being commemorated. And then somewhere in the middle of my life, another date came, which was supposed to be 25th of January. It became 25th of January. The actual action was 25th, but they didn't want to relate it to the earlier liberation. Because you see also 25th of January 1970, I think, 71, was also supposed to be a liberation.
When the Amin overthrew the government.
So liberation gets defined by the ones who shoot themselves into power, in our case. So first, we really must congratulate, at least in my part, I must congratulate the ones who shot themselves into power on that date. So liberation for that matter. And they have held the levers for 1, 2, 3.5 plus decades. That achievement, hate them or love them, they have achieved it. So you can't take that one away from the record of history.
But what happens in those 37 years is
that's another matter,
more critical.
That you have been able in that to outlive everybody else and hold the levers.
Doesn't matter how.
That you must congratulate those people. And those people, for me, why I congratulate them, because they have another 13 years to go, minimum, at least according to their confession. They told us we have a plan for 50 years when they came. They have gone 37, we have another 13, minimum. But you see, we also have an experience that and you see, Opera, be very careful when you are setting deadlines. We have experienced that every deadline we set, we have broken it.
Yeah.
Time limit, we broke it.
Yeah.
Age limit, we broke it. So even the 50-year promise,
actually,
is maybe if we take the previous times.
It started with the 4-year interim government.
So we have been changing our deadlines. We have been removing them. So even the 50-year one, we need to think that if it reaches in the next 13 years and we are still around, we may think that we extend the 50 years to maybe 60. Yeah. So that we must congratulate. But there are also certain things that have worked. We must talk about the infrastructure. Surely there has been some work done on the infrastructure
That's
side.
true.
We might say it is slow, we might say, but you can't take that one away. We also, I keep arguing that in the health area, the strategy of decentralizing, I call it the decentralizing, health to the health center 2, the health center 3, has been revolutionary. We talk about hospitals, yes, but I think taking health centers lower to the people. Now, there are issues which we shall come to, because you have the centers, how is their functionality. But at least doing that. Let me tell you one of the revolutionary things. When we went to university, there was one university and only 2,000 people could qualify. On our course, which I went to, mass communication, only 19. I always asked, because I went into the guild leadership, I would ask in the university council, why must we have one? Ghana in the 60s had 3 already. Tanzania had more. Why? So at least on that end, on tertiary institution, the expansion, the opening up, those things have been. The attempt at universal primary education and universal secondary education, opening up and allowing people to go to school, those we must commend them. Then we go on the other side. I think one of the things, and security too, I think when we were here, all the attempts to subvert and disturb the borders of Uganda have eventually been secured, including our moving into the African continent. We can go dismiss, but our stabilization of Somalia, our going over to Congo, our role in Rwanda, our role in South Sudan, those we can't take them away.
We can't take them away, but one thing you have not mentioned before you cross over is the issue or the governance side. And some people think that until we address the issue of governance, the issue of politics, all the others you've talked about do not really make a difference.
But you see, for me, if you tell me that an armed rebellion is not politics, I don't understand. Yeah. An armed rebellion is politics, is a response to political situations. It's pure
in the line of democracy, rule of law.
We are going to go there. We are going to go. That's why I was saying I'm going to cross over. Yes. Now, there was a 10-point program, which became a 15-point program. It talks about the development, it talks about fighting corruption, it talks about democracy. I think we have scored poorly there. That's why I think when you are going to the scorecard, you also decide subjects. Which paper did you do well, which paper haven't you done well? So that's where I was going. Now, when you have to hold power for 5 decades, which is the target initially, then there are some democratic processes you have to compromise. Remove the term limit, remove the age limit, change the constitution to suit your dispensation of staying into power for 5 decades or more. So yes, there the things have to be had to be actually tackled in a very military way. And you see, every political contradiction we tackle it militarily. Oh yes, we tackle it with guns. Every political contradiction. So either you are defeated and co-opted, or you are defeated and you find your way. So that's one of the ways. But the other thing is the systematization of corruption, and now that has been so entrenched that it has become total impunity. Yes, and you can see that every nook, every niche, every level, LC1, LC2, district, national, corruption is a way of life. It is very systematized, very systemic. That the corrupt have become too powerful. That the people who may attempt to fight them are the ones who will actually be humiliated, defeated, and sometimes killed.
The question is, can the concept of liberation stand in such
For
circumstances?
some,
where impunity is top-notch.
Yes, there are people who liberated themselves. Now, what, and I have been saying this, Apple, I keep saying this every time we are discussing these things, that the mistake is for you to think that liberation, quote unquote, the one of 25th January 1971, the one of 11th April 1971, the one of 26th January 19, that it was meant for you. That is the mistake.
Oh, that's where we go wrong.
Yeah, that's where we go wrong.
Dr. Gerald, you can now step in and tell us whether the 37-year liberation has stood the test of time, that concept.
I may not apply the word liberation, but I would call it the 37 years of the NRM government. Because of the NRM government. Because if I talk about liberation, of course I will be questioned by different actors in this country, whether it was really liberation, but there are areas where I also believe that maybe some liberation took place. And one of them is water and sanitation.
Oh.
I can assure you that if you moved around this country, there is access, the access to water has really improved. If you go places like Kamuli where people used to ride bicycles for so many kilometers, you are likely to find some boreholes or dams for their
animals. If you go
animals.
just to Luwero, people share water holes with animals.
I'm not saying it is 100% successful, but there is 80-something% coverage across the country. But you also know the nature of Luwero. I think the population is not so close to each other, and so many people have farms. So the likelihood that you may not have water, water sources close to each other, exactly, it may be possible. But if I use some examples, I move in this country, there is some improvement.
Okay.
Highways, there is an improvement. The number of tarmac roads, of course the speed has been gradual. Actually, if I analyze this government, President Museveni has done more of tarmacking of the highways in this last 15 years. The earlier ones, there are a lot of issues, either because he faced a lot of conflict from different areas. Now, me who comes from Bugisu, you know Karamoja is not very, very far. The Karimojong cattle rustlers used to walk on foot all the way up to Bugisu, Sironko, and still cut and kill people. But right now, there's still insecurity, but contained largely around the Karamoja area itself. So there have been some improvement. Where we are scoring very badly right now is in the areas of governance, like you rightly put it. We decentralized. We thought we should empower the local communities to run their own affairs. But along the way, there are people at the local level who have hijacked the decentralization process. Everyone wants to be a chairman or a secretary for finance. So we end up creating very small units that are not viable. When you go, reports tell you that the employment rate in those districts is about 50%. The rest positions are vacant, so rendering the districts dysfunctional.
To these local governments.
Yeah, that's why they are not able to recruit. Programs that are designed at the at national level, like PDM, parish development model. Sometimes there's no proper link between what's happening this side and at the local level. So people end up getting a raw deal. And also we are still doing very badly in terms of the feeder roads inside there. When it rains, roads are washed away very quickly. Now at national level, we know that elections are one of the key cornerstones of a democratic system. But I think we have sacrificed our democracy because of this do or die. If we have a target to stay for 50 years, then we must use every process to suppress.
But that target is not also formally communicated. Was not formally communicated.
It was not formally communicated, but you can see circumstantial evidence. If I come in 1986 and I say I'm going to stay for 4 years. Then when the 4 years come, I say I have not prepared for elections. Let's hold the elections in 1996. Those are 10 years down the road. Then in 2001, I said, now I'm retiring from the army. I don't want anything to do with the army again. I come and I tell you, Akasimo, I want now you to thank me. I professionalized the army. I go in 2006. Before 2006, I changed the constitution and removed the term limits. And then I say, by 2016 or 11, I don't want to be an old man looking for votes across the country. And
So the 50-year project is real.
By 2017, I think we are not being straight because we want to buy time. Maybe if you prepare people, they may plan and take you out. So you must give some hope that after all he's going. That's why you see honorables like Mama and Babas would prepare, put on suits, try to demonstrate.
And they talk of a chew.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, they get frustrated. Now, the challenge we are facing, a very huge population, a very huge young population. The economic growth has slowed down. Okay, the poverty levels are increasing again. We are having cases of indoctrination according to religion and so forth. And then extremist violence coming from political processes and historical factors. Those threaten the sustainability of the state. So to me, it is a scorecard that we need to evaluate both positives, negatives, but there is still a lot that we need to do.
You didn't want to talk about liberation per se. Was it deliberate? You don't believe in liberation of 1986?
Well, I come from the civil society. If I say liberation, my NRM friends will clap and say I support. If I say there was no liberation, the NUP guys will clap. So for me, as a civil society actor, I'm just analyzing what I see.
But others say liberation, was real, but along the way, things went wrong.
No, there are people who were liberated, a number of people. If you go to Zimbabwe, don't you see big farms? And then milk, serving the meat industry. The people have been liberated. There are those who supply matoke. In Kampala, trucks are bringing matoke. There are those who are thriving well in the transportation industry. But also, there are those who are not doing very well. I will tell you that Namisidwa, Mbale, where I come from, the fertility of the soil was very good. And you would see production, people are strong, feeding each other. But lately, there is food insecurity. So if I went and told people in Bubutu that you were liberated, probably they may ask whether my head is okay. Because some of the interventions are not working for them. The population is increasing. It's Hile. The size of the soil, the area is not increasing to accommodate them. So there's a problem of land fragmentation, and then the productivity of the food is low. So every year they are beginning to struggle. Now I imagine 20 years from now, when they be fighting over food, maybe we need the system.
I think one thing that we really need to talk about, and I think even the highest level now, they are talking about it, and we've been trying to talk about this thing, is the UPE and USE. If at entry you have so many, and at exit you have 70%, in some cases up to 70%.
Yeah, the minister yesterday talked about 32% completion rate. That's the 70
up to 70% dropout.
Yeah, dropout is 70, around 70.
And in Kakumiro, the president actually mentioned about USE.
Yes,
he said
both UPE,
the USE. He said actually USE, he's worried that about 64% of children dropped out of USE.
So both in UPE and USE, you have 70%. Now, you need to do the math that if you have 1 million kids entering school, about 700,000 don't complete the first cycle. So it is 30% who go to the next cycle of USE. And 70% of that also does not complete the USE cycle. It's a very scary statistic, because the structure of the Ugandan population is that we have a majority of people who are young, and they are the ones who are not getting any form of skill or orientation. Now, schools also do more than academic orientation, really. So the other factors around that, the crime, the high teenage pregnancies, the disillusionment, the suicides, the mental health,
they are all
here. And so for me, what really scares is that you only hear some statements. What action?
No, I think
So liberation, really?
Richard, I think that is the biggest contradiction I picked from the Honorable Minister's speech yesterday.
And the president
She
and the first lady
said,
both in the same
the
week
Honorable
talked about
Minister
this.
said, leave alone what other people are saying. The education sector in Uganda is on the right course. That's what he implied in her speech. But again, she alluded to the fact that the completion rate in the primary cycle, education cycle, is just around 30%. That is a contradiction, I hope.
There you go. So for me, that is scary. Where are these millions
Going.
of young Ugandans going? How can we go to sleep? How can any of us go to sleep when you have these millions of Ugandans, young, with their dreams shattered and hopeless? Yeah, and so liberation becomes the word
thorny issue to discuss.
Yes, it becomes you will have the word liberation with a question mark at the end, and that's really for me a very important factor that we need to look into when we discuss this liberation. I think it's important.
It's important. And Jared, as we wind up, I don't know, Baguma alluded to the fact that every government that comes up with its liberation day. What should we expect? Is the 26th January possibly going with the NRM?
It depends on even how we handle this issue of maybe succession, how the president goes. Because if President Museveni went in a similar manner, definitely you'll have another liberation day. There's no question about that. He has given you facts. There is a time, the UPC day, when Obote arrived in Bushenyi, became the Heroes Day. And people, that's why he mentioned Bushenyi, that Udugadi gathered there. I've reached that place. I know. And there's actually a house he built there where you find the UPC is going to visit. So if we don't handle it the right way, we can have another liberation day. But as before I move from this point, you have triggered me to something about the speech of the Minister of Education, the First Lady, yesterday. She rightly said they need to focus on UP and USE because many people are there and it's benefiting majority of the Ugandans. I definitely agree, and I pray that a lot of efforts are invested in these UPE schools beyond these speeches we give when we are releasing PLOE and USE. Now, I also have a concern. Baguma rightly said university education has expanded. It is very true and it's very commendable. But right now, the National Council for Higher Education is also struggling. Out of all these universities we have, very few are chartered. Now, for you to get chartered and be able, it means you have enough lecturers, you have enough facilities for teaching, research facilities in the institution, so that you are able to produce quality people in the education. Today, most of the private universities are just hand-picking. You go every corner, this one is a lecturer, this is a lecturer, this is a lecturer. We don't trace the qualifications, the capability. Or I would even expect you go to university and you find the internet. You find now a lecturer does not have access to any of that.
That's a big
what
thing.
kind of education are they giving
Because
at a higher level?
These are institutions that actually produce a resource that go directly into
if we talk about
development and
research
production.
and innovation, it's a university. But if a lecturer is being paid 700,000,
that
and
is-
in one day is
those are
running
peanuts.
into 3 institutions, you go to KIU, by noon you are at Kampala University, in the evening you are, you don't have time to read. You keep on recycling notes of 10 years ago, which your lecturer gave you. And yet there are a lot of things changing internationally on the market.
Well, viewers, we congratulate the liberators and Ugandans upon the 37th Liberation Day once again, but hopefully things will get better, because many issues have been pointed out, especially on the side of governance, and President Museveni talked about it actually in his Liberation Day speech. He said, well, we have built tarmac roads, but people cannot eat tarmac. He made it. He talked about it, that there should be socio-economic transformation, there should be household incomes must improve.
He's correct. Look at the road from now, Soroti to Moroto. It is tarmac, but is there food?
He talked about education. Actually, he emphasized the issue of education and the service commission, Education Service Commission, doing bad practices there. And he said, stay tuned.
Actually,
that's
call
the
them
word he
pigs
used.
that will roast them.
That will roast those pigs. Maguma, you make a concluding statement on this matter and we move on. The pigs will be roasted soon.
You know, some of us, the cattle keepers, especially the older group, we had a challenge with the pork. But when you talk about roasting pigs, we are jubilating. We know pork is coming.
He was talking about corruption, actually. He was talking about corruption and nepotism and all that, sectarianism happening.
But Apollo, really, with all due respect, that a speech in Kakumero about corruption will excite me.
Anyway,
the speeches. I've been here for how many years? So I think I would be excitable. I would be disappointingly excitable. The one thing that is for sure is that the dropout, the human resource, the dropout, but even the ones who remain in the institutions, the poor quality and the corruption, that you see, let me tell you, you say head teachers, he talked about it, in public schools. We are not thinking about that. You must not increase without permission.
School
and they
charges.
increase. And then you come and tell me, you see, these head teachers are not listening to me.
well, he said, stay tuned. Stay tuned. Anything.
I have been tuned.
Something big is
I have
big
been
is coming.
tuned for more than 3 decades. So why not? I will continue tuning.
Viewers, it is time you can also be part of this discussion. Use that WhatsApp platform, use that SMS platform, send us your comment on 0701 609906. Send a WhatsApp message, send an SMS, and tell us. I mean, you can comment on any of the topics we have discussed in the studios. But at this point, let's shift gears and go to Parliament. I told you 348 members of Parliament supported a censure motion against the State Lands Minister, Honorable Persis Namuganza. And like I said, only 5 voted against and only 3 abstained. But on that day, when the censure motion was being debated and voted on, it was full house. And one thing I have noticed about this censure, not many people are actually excited about it. And Baguma will tell us what happened in was it the 90s or early 2000s when ministers were censured and others actually did not wait for the censure motion or censure vote. They stepped aside. I don't know why the population is not really behind this parliament, these huge numbers of MPs in this censure motion. And I will start with a man who sits on a panel that evaluates parliament. Gerald.
For the benefit of viewers, Article 118 of the Constitution gives the parliament powers to censor, to move a vote of no confidence against a minister.
A member of cabinet.
A member of cabinet. And when a member of cabinet, when the parliament successfully moves that vote of no confidence and votes on it, and you lose, then, because parliament, basically a minister is accountable to the executive, to the president, but also to parliament as representatives of the people. When we are observing this house, there are a number of things that have been happening some of them that are very critical, that they would actually attract censoring a minister. We have had cases of human rights violations where the ministers have been invited of internal affairs, security, and any attempts to move a vote of no confidence just collapse. You find them divided in circles. I'm not for this, and it ends there. We have had a case of a minister named in land grabbing in Kololo when she was heading the docket of lands. And there is a report to that effect by the a parliamentary committee which investigated, and recommendations were made. This minister was moved to another ministry, and now she has been moved to another ministry. Parliament has not done nothing about it. Now, when it comes to this particular issue of Honorable Namuganza, it's not that we really condone the impunity where a person, like she's named in the issue of Naguru Nakawa land, where they say she had a directive, she alleged to have had a directive from a head of state, which she couldn't present in writing before the committee.
But Doctor,
and
Honorable Namuganza is not accused of doing what she did in the Naguru.
I saw
it is
in
contempt of parliament.
I saw in the report,
Contempt of parliament.
in the report from the Discipline and Privileges Committee, it is one of the issues they pointed out. I read the report. Now, and that report was the basis for them to move a motion.
Yes.
Okay.
But the censure is on contempt of parliament.
Yes, contempt of parliament, but it's not one issue.
Oh, yeah.
In the report of Honorable Mpaka, I also saw the issue of mental, of inability to perform her role. Then I was questioning that, which hospital did they take her to confirm that she did not have the mental capacity to hold the office of the minister? I think when we are doing this, we should be seen to be fair. To be honest, I also don't have so much sympathies for Honorable Namuganza, because sometimes she also talks too much. Like if the issue is the contempt of parliament, then you talk about a marriage of someone. I think that is not, it was not called for. But then there's certain grounds which I saw that it was a witch hunt. And also, as we monitor parliament, we always look at when they're passing budgets, for instance, national budget. There's a time you find when parliament's totally empty, and you find like 3 or 4 MPs are discussing the budget. Then it comes to this particular matter, everyone turns up, including those who are in the hospital. So I've been questioning why.
Okay, Richard, I don't know where
I want to start from that point. That for a parliament that has gone to court several times, that is in court for passing important legislation without numbers, that for a parliament that is debating about budgets and has no numbers, who mobilized them? What motivated them to all be available? And indeed, like they say, even the ones who were sick to come. So I go to what he calls uncalled for, and that's what was called for in my view. That was the crux of the matter. The crux of what he calls the witch hunt is that the matter moved to bedroom matters. And omusango gwenyama tegugwa malojo. Wabawo akabinkano, wabawo akasimba, embirago, they were going to have the appropriate words. That for me was once the bedroom issues came, and we know which character.
What does it tell?
We know which character in the leadership where you talk about their personal conduct, however not so saintly it may be, they will come after you with all their resources. So the first thing for me was the attendance. It talked about the mobilization and what was...
These are around 356 MPs who were present on that
How many
day.
times did we have them? And so how come this censure was so important? So for me, the bedroom matters were cardinal in this. The second thing it has provided an excellent smoke screen
Okay.
over the Nakuru land matter.
Yeah, true.
The Nakuru land matter is very scandalous. The land was allocated to first a group of people. It was supposed to be in a certain way. It went to a second group of people. It went to a third group of people. I don't know who has it now. But you see, when you see the ones who owned the land, even the veils they used to own the land.
We are not even discussing how and what should be done about that land saga.
No, it is already done.
We are now-
the people are already owning it.
We are now discussing
it's
the
the
same
usual land grabbing group has already taken that one. Why should we even be discussing it? Very useless discussions we are having. But it has provided a very convenient smoke screen for them. You see, for me, if I was President Museveni, I would keep quiet until my next reshuffle, which is usually 2.5 years into government, and actually meet Namuganza, the full cabinet minister for land.
Really?
Yeah.
Instead?
Because I think the law says the appointing authority will take appropriate action.
Yeah.
So my appropriate action will be, I keep quiet now. It's a few months to 2.5 years. The 2.5 years time for cabinet reshuffle comes, I actually move to Namuganza to be senior minister.
Doesn't that
For
further dent the independence and the respect in the three arms of government?
So which respect are we talking about? You see, you can't dent what doesn't exist. And that's why you were wondering, why is the public not very much engaged with this? Because there is no respect or trust among the public in this institution, particularly Parliament. Because if you get 5 million and you go and do a certain amendment, you start fighting over, I took 40 million, I brought it back. The one who brought it back is Wichanted. I've told you there is a certain individual or two there. If you start touching, they will come for you, and they come for you very viciously. They have built a mafia group around, and this is what is happening. So the parliamentarians know. And they told the line. They know the viciousness of the other group.
Actually, I saw an MP who stood up when voting and said, Right Honorable Speaker, I am voting for obedience. I am voting yes. So I was asking myself, obedient to who?
I don't know, Dr. Gerard. You do a scorecard on the performance of Parliament. I don't know what this means now to the next scorecard possibly you will be issuing.
I think there are issues to do with the misplacement of priorities. That issues that require to be prioritized by government institutions are not being prioritized. We prioritize petty things. And then secondly, we have to do a very big job to restore public trust, public confidence in these institutions. Because I have a study, actually, of Afrobarometer of 2018, conducted in Uganda, in different regions. Only 26% of Ugandan citizens said they trust any information from a member of parliament, while 32% said they trust information from the president. So where are the almost 70% of the population? It means they don't see the relevance.
They don't care
of our leadership, and that is very dangerous.
That's very dangerous
For a country. If citizens don't trust the leadership, people don't trust the institutions of the state, it's a problem. I'll just give a simple case. My neighbor was murdered 2 days ago in Chirinya, Chira municipality. And then the lady is alleged to have been murdered around 4 a.m. And we reported the matter very quickly to the area police, which is just meters away. A dog came, if it was a high-profile person, they would have rushed the scene, sealed off the crime scene with yellow tapes, and then with gloves, everyone to be seen to be doing something.
The SOCO, scene of crime.
Exactly, scene of crime officers. But the whole thing was handled casually, and the police dog managed to come at 2 p.m. By 2 p.m., these police security people tell you after 8 hours, the dog may not be actually able to pick the scent and be able to do it. So they hung around with their dog, and it ended there. The body was carried, and I don't really expect much.
So you see, if the gentleman on plot 1,
That is Chadondo or Nakasero.
It doesn't matter in Nakasero, in Tebe, whatever plot 1, whatever.
Plot 10 is Nakasero.
If he wants the Honorable Namuganza to be there, Honorable Namuganza will be there. And in fact, the same parliament will come back and reverse its session.
Really?
Oh yeah, that same parliament will come. You see, there was
that describes a rubber stamp parliament.
There was an honorable member of parliament who, on her own
True or
accord,
not?
in court.
True or not?
I'm just
That
answering you using this
describes a
example.
rubber stamp parliament.
I'm just giving you an example. There was an honorable member of parliament who, on her own court pleading, accepted that I am corrupt. I took money. Was it Gavi or something? I took money and was convicted. That person is now a minister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a message here before we...
And they by the way, they said we are not going to approve that one. Then
They later approve.
so that's why I say the same parliament will come and say we
He
have reversed our
says,
censure.
hello, Mr. Puru, thanks for the show. I am Merrick, the voice of Eastern. First and foremost, we don't have liberation in Uganda because we can't keep on singing liberation, yet the city roads are full of potholes, insecurity, and injustice in courts of law. Namuganza's censure was all about diverting Ugandans from the land issues. We can't have such a shallow-minded MPs who attend full house to discuss irrelevant motions. Yet Ugandans are crying day and night. Thank you so much, Femunyo. Thank you, Merrick from Eastern Uganda. And we urge you to keep those messages coming in as we close the show in just 10 minutes. Dr. Gerard, what now? What can we expect now that we have a public that cannot rally behind Parliament on a crucial matter like this? Censuring a minister should actually is one way to embolden the principle of separation of powers. That the principle, yes, that Parliament now has powers to even tell the president, no, you made the wrong choice, a wrong appointment.
I think let me sum it like this with this story. If you see an NUPMP come up and says we received bribes of what, 40 million, and then he carries the money back to Parliament. The next day they are saying we have referred him to the Committee on Rules, and then afterwards we hear IGG. Then out of a sudden, he has made peace with the leadership of Parliament and he has been forgiven. The next day the IGG's office has lost interest in the what? In the case. Which kind of country is this?
One thing that was critical in that matter, the members testified, even that one, that they received money from a residence, the residence of one of the top leaders.
Did we see security, CID, we have security cameras all around Kolola and so forth. Did we see them extract any evidence to see whether that MP went to that residence and at the time and day he mentioned? Did we see that? Because in the US, the FBI will come in and go to Trump's home and remove the classified documents.
Even Joe Biden also is being roasted on
the same thing, and he's a sitting president. And now they're going after who? Pence.
Mike Pence.
Mike Pence. So if such a thing happened, but if you say it has, as if the whole thing is casual,
where do
it's
we go from
so
here?
personal.
Where do we go from here, Gerard?
It is a road, but like we discussed the issue of Civil Aviation Authority, it must be an issue of concern, public concern for everyone, everybody. How are we going to restore the integrity of Parliament and the leaders of this country? The broken system and services delivery has made MPs bear the burden of providing some, I call them Panado. They are now acting as Panado to the citizens. That you go to Karamoja, when an MP arrives, citizens begin touching the throat to show thirst. We are hungry, eating it. Then the MP will begin distributing 2 2,000. So if an MP is doing that, then he has to be corrupt in Kampala in order for you to sustain that.
He says, Mr. Apple, thanks for the show and thanks to the panel. I am Charles from Kagadi, Kamusegu. Thanks for watching and keep those messages coming in. Gerard, Richard said that if it was he, the appointing authority, he would wait for the next reshuffle and then reappoint the minister who has been censured by Parliament. That is
the way I know Richard.
That's a vote of no confidence.
The way I know Richard.
In the whole arm of government.
The way I know Richard. If he was the head of state, probably wouldn't do that. But he's trying to use a different method of describing how low we have gone. It means the Parliament has rendered itself irrelevant, and therefore a certain power can do anything to overturn their decisions. Are you hearing about Vinci?
Oh.
Wasn't a resolution made in the Parliament, but I've seen the head of state mention a number of times that those ones are joking, they joke. I'm going to overturn that one, I'm going to do it what I feel I want. They don't know anything. Actually said in Rukunjiri. What do they know about coffee?
Baguma, where do we go from here?
No, we I think we'll have more of the same, a little bit worse probably. The 50-year plan, I think.
Project,
I think the 50-year initiative is still on, some more 13 years. Someone has had the boldness or madness to describe the group as the most reactionary. If you take the word reactionary within Marxist theory, it's such a condemnation. So this is the most reactionary. But even if it's the most reactionary group, we still have the group around with us. The threshold, for me, the anger threshold of the general population has not reached.
Oh.
Yeah, no, has not reached. So
will it ever, even after 37 years?
Everywhere in the world, it ever. In every jurisdiction of the world, it ever. It doesn't matter whether it's against religion or it's against political power or against, I don't know, whatever. They ever. So even here, it will. Now, the most important thing for me, I think we should be engaging with is that there must be a post-Yoweri Museveni Tibuhaburwa dispensation. There must be. There is nothing in the world that says a human being is immortal. So I think for some of us who have something to lose in this country, and there are many of us, I think we need to be engaging ourselves and coalescing about an agenda for a post-Museveni Tibuhaburwa dispensation. And I think our biggest challenge is we are leaving it in the hands of crooks, mediocres, and criminals, literally.
I will ask you who those people are. But a message is here again. My name is Apostle Stephen Kakaire from Bulenga. On the issue of liberation, I think we have two presidents in one person, Museveni. Because if you follow his speeches, he's the best in the whole. It is the best in the whole world. But when it comes to implementation of his speech, it is questionable. My question to those in the studio is: the president using his speech to entice Ugandans, yet his agenda is different, or something is wrong somewhere? Thank you so much. And he says, and on Honorable Namuganza's saga, I think the Parliament lost the main point, because I wanted it to be about the Naguruland saga. Now they removed her. Now that they removed her based on the contempt of Parliament and marriage issues. Now the Parliament covered her indulgence in Naguruland theft. So the Parliament helped her to win.
What should have made her look very innocent?
Maguma, react before we go about the speeches and what, in just 1 minute.
No, we have had, people forget the first speech. This is a fundamental change. It's not a mere change of guard. So what were we changing from and changing to and changing about? If we didn't understand that, obviously, as every politician does, or even other people in other professions, you have to say the things that the people would like to hear. Okay. I think it's clever.
I am Chinyamatama from Kampala. Ugandans should learn to have a constructive opposition, though we still have challenges as a country. That doesn't a reason for us to celebrate the 37 years of the improvement we have had. Okay. Reduced maternal rate, reduced infant mortality, pacification of northern Uganda, high levels of literacy. Actually, high levels of literacy was also a matter the Honorable Minister raised in her speech yesterday. Formidable army that for the first time we are exporters of peace, and Uganda being the oasis of refugees in the region. What we should understand is that Rome was not built overnight. Human rights and democracy challenges will be sorted along the way. Thank you, moderator and the panelists. Thank you so much. And his Chinyamatam from Kampala. Good submission there.
I know Chinyamatam.
Hey.
And I keep saying, that's why I keep saying initially we have another 13 years of sorting out human rights. But as our experience with the deadlines, we may change that.
So it's work in progress.
You see, Apollo, you cannot tell me that increasing and deepening corruption and impunity is work in progress. That is work in retrogress. Yeah.
In retrogress.
Yeah, that's work in retrogress.
I think let's read this message and possibly walk out of the studios. Good morning, guys. Thanks for the show. I am Otim Major Joel in Chirinya, Bokassa. About the relevance of this parliament, if I had power, I would have rocket launched that place. They are just time wasters.
Genocide. What's genocide there?
That kills me.
It's called a major. I hope he doesn't have his own.
Genocide.
Gerald, the final comment and we move out.
Yeah, citizens of Uganda, I would like to urge you to be conscious. Because these wars will never be won by the leaders themselves. If you experience corruption in your, like we are trying, my people of Namisindwa, Namisindwa Today Forum, I thank you so much because we have smoked people, a lot of people out. I told you about, the president was not about recruitment. You have a budget ceiling to recruit 32 people, you recruit 37. Then at the end of the day, you pay this one salary for 2 months. After 3 months, you pay these ones as these ones are waiting. How do you run a district like that? So if we continue, we need this civic consciousness. And then we can be able to change where we are. But the journey is long.
The journey is long. Your parting shot, Richard.
No, we must congratulate the ones who were liberated for the 37 years, the Chinyamatamas. The Kampala. We must congratulate them.
That's above.
We must, because the 37, I keep insisting, this 37 years of some good that has happened and some bad that has happened, we must congratulate each other.
Okay.
For me, Apollo is we will undo the good that we have done if we keep hiding our heads in the sand and do not confront the criminality that we have promoted and continue to practice.
Thank you so much, our viewers. Thank you so much for this wonderful show, and thank you so much for that that good feedback. Keep it coming in. My name is Sima Paul. I must thank the panelists, Dr. Gerald Wanzala and Richard Baguma and Vianney Luja, the spokesperson for the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority. We will catch up next Saturday. Good afternoon and have a good week ahead. Bye-bye.